Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone, and welcome to another yellow version solo run. As you probably know, I'm Droozee, and this is the first time we'll be using an evolution from a previous run because today we will be using Weezing. When we previously used Koffing, it was one of the slowest runs we've had on the channel so far. While I'd like to think I've gotten a little bit better since that run, I think this run should be faster for two other reasons. First of all, Weezing is an evolved Pokemon, and that means it has much better base stats than Koffing. Weezing is in the top 35 of all Pokemon in total base stats, while Koffing was barely inside the top 100. That is a big difference, and the extra stats should make Weezing much stronger. The stat split is still very similar as before, but at least our base 60 speed is respectable and much easier to work with than the 35 we managed when we had Koffing. I'll touch on the second reason in just a bit, but I'm excited to see how this one plays out, so let's get straight into the lab battle with our rival. Just like the Koffing video, we're going to be facing our strongest Eevee-lution, and I think that's going to be Jolteon because of the extra speed that it has. Also, it has Pin Missile, which is going to be super effective against us. So we had to win that battle, and it really wasn't too hard, and that's because of the second reason I think Weezing will be much better than Koffing, and that's our starting moveset. And that includes Sludge. This is such a powerful move. It is base 65 power, and it's a stab move right at the start of the run, and it is so much better than working with Tackle and Smog. This powerful move makes short work of the Eevee, and we're off to a fantastic start to this run. While we are talking about moves, let's take a look at the learn set for Weezing. The biggest change here is the starting moves we get. I mean, it is the only change to the moves we get by level up, as otherwise it is the exact same, very limited moveset we had when we had to use Koffing. Starting with Sludge instead of waiting till level 32 to get it is going to make a big difference though. The TM list is pretty much the same as well, with our only change here being able to learn Hyper Beam. It is a good move, but it would take just way too long to get it at the game corner, so it isn't really viable in these solo challenges. So it looks like we're going to be relying on Sludge to carry us for a good portion of this game, which definitely holds true as we get into our battle against Rival 1A. We face our rival for the second time before we faced any other trainers, and it goes pretty smoothly. Sludge and its ability to poison 40% of the time is so powerful, and it takes down both Spearow and Eevee very quickly. Brock will double resist our poison moves though, so I'm not sure things will go so well when we face him. Because of this, I do take a chance to battle all the trainers in Viridian Forest along with several bug Pokemon because they are an easy one-shot with Sludge, being super effective in Gen 1 against bug Pokemon. This means we will make it to Brock's gym at level 11. Because I'm not sure how much damage Sludge is really going to do, I decide to battle the Light Years trainer as a test to see how much damage Sludge is going to do. It actually goes surprisingly well. Granted, these Pokemon only single resist and not double resist like Brock's will, but Diglett goes down very quickly to a couple of Sludges, and we level up to level 12, and Sandshrew is taking about 1/4 damage, and we get a poison, so things are looking really good. I'm really surprised that we're doing so much damage here, and I think I'm about ready to try Brock for the first time. So after a quick trip to the Pokemon Center, we're going to heal up and take our first shot at Brock. This battle is going to be an absolute slog, but I think we do have a chance, so let's see how it goes. We outspeed and find out that Sludge is much better than Smog. It still doesn't do much to Geodude, and we will need critical hits to speed things up a bit, and we do get a few, but the biggest help here is the ability to poison the Geodude. Brock has 5 full heals he will use on his Geodude, and another 5 he will use on Onix, so each time we get a poison, we effectively get a free turn of attacking. It does take a while, but we are eventually able to finish the rock off with a tackle to allow us to save some PP on Sludge for the Onix. We take heavy damage heading into the Onix, over half, but the Onix comes out and we're able to basically do the exact same strategy again here. Sludge and hope for poison, but with the key difference of switching to Smog if he uses Bide. That was the plan anyway, But then we run out of Sludge PP as we take Onix to around 40% health. We have gotten Brock to use 3 full heals and haven't taken that much damage, so we still have a chance. We switch to Smog and Brock finally goes for Bide. Things get better when the poison during his Bide, allowing a few turns of poison damage to sink in. The Rock Snake is now in red health, and eventually Onix goes for another Bide, and since we're so close to finishing off, I switch to Tackle, and it allows us to knock it out with 6 HP left to earn our first badge. It took Koffing until level 18 to clear this hurdle, so things are looking much better for our floating balls of gas. This saves a ton of time for the run overall, as we're now able to buy our favorite fish outside of Mount Moon. Just like always, we know that this fish is far too precious and powerful to bring with us on our journey, so we shove it into a computer where it can live out the rest of its days in happiness. Enjoy your time splashing about, Magikarp, because we have a run to continue. After successfully navigating Mount Moon with no real issues, we arrive in Cerulean City. We have a decision to make here, and while I think we probably would do okay against Misty, I think Rival 2 will be much easier right now, so I decide to take him on first. The strategy for this battle is to use Sludge. That's it. Really, we don't have any stronger moves, and it actually works well because it is such a strong move for us. The only area we could run into problems is with the Sandshrew, and that's if it hits us with a couple of sand attacks. It does hit us with one, but it doesn't end up costing us too much as we finish it off, and now we just have to finish off his Rattata and his Eevee, but we'll make short work of them as we one-shot Rattata and then struggle to hit the Eevee a little bit, but not too much overall. We're able to finish it off before we get taken into red health and get our win against our rival on the first attempt. We did take quite a bit of damage there though, and so we're going to need to heal before heading up north to Bill's house, but it's a short trip to the Pokemon Center. While we are on the topic of Bill, I noticed something that bothered me about this interaction on this playthrough. So as you see here, Bill has combined himself with a Pokemon. Now I'm not going to get into the details here because I feel like that would take way too long to unpack. No, instead I want to focus on the fact that we help separate himself again. Bill comes out, but what about the Pokemon he combined himself with? Where did it go? I have no idea, but if you have an idea or even just a fun theory, let me know in the comments so we can solve this gap in the Pokemon story so many years after the release. With that tangent out of the way, let's get back into the solo challenge with our battle against Misty. Koffing struggled here, so I'm a bit worried heading into this one. However, it turns out that this worry was completely unfounded and not needed at all, as Weezing demolishes his Staryu with 2 hits from Sludge, and then we get a poison on Starmie, which also makes it a 2-hit KO with Sludge. We did get a bit of good luck there with the move Starmie went for, but that's another first try victory, and that is always great. The ability to use Sludge makes such a difference in this run. With our second badge in hand, we can now head down to Viridian City where we can board the SS Anne and battle Rival 3. I'm not expecting this to be too challenging, but I guess you never know. Things aren't very exciting early on as we one-shot both Spearow and the Rattata. That's going to bring out Sandshrew, and this thing is not really difficult, it's just annoying to face. It doesn't do too much damage to us, but again, it hits us with a sand attack, which is just more annoying than anything, as we easily one-shot the Eevee to finish this battle off. Have I mentioned how much I like Sludge yet in this run? It is making things so much easier than the Koffing run. With our rival defeated, we can cure the captain's seasickness and get cut so we can make our way to battle Lieutenant Surge. Before we do that though, I decide to stop and get TM44 for rest. Rest was absolutely critical for parts of the Koffing run, so I don't want to risk needing it and not having it. So we're going to make the minor detour and pick it up, and then we're going to make our way to the electric gym. Surge usually isn't too difficult in yellow because he attacks randomly and only has one Pokemon, and because we don't have a weakness to him, I think this will go pretty well. We get hit by a Mega Punch, which did surprising damage, but then he keeps deciding to just lower my attack, and while it's annoying, it doesn't make a big difference here. He did miss a Mega Kick, which might have been a problem if it did connect and it crit, but anyways, we knock him out and get the win. And importantly, that gives us access to TM24 for Thunderbolt, which we teach right away to give us a strong special attack and some better coverage options to speed up some battles against flying and water types moving forward. Now our only real option is to head on through Rock Tunnel, which includes the infamous self-destructing hiker. This guy was an absolute brick wall against Koffing and a big reason why I picked up Rest, so I'm hoping Weezing has an easier time. And while it's a bit better, the fact that I accidentally ran into a different hiker and have lower sludge PP isn't making things easier. So yeah, this first battle is a loss and self-destruct is doing a ton of damage. We've seen how this would play out before, so in the interest of time and my sanity, we're going to go ahead and teach Rest and try this again. With our new move learned, this battle is going to be an absolute breeze. Rest is going to make it so we can literally just sleep through the entire battle and wait for the hiker to knock himself out if we want to. However, that's not exactly how I play it. I just get a little bit antsy and a little bit bored, and once we get to Graveler, I am going to start using Tackle because I'm going to want to avoid to be asleep in later battles. But Rest made this a pretty fun strategy overall, and I'm glad we can now continue on with this run. I don't know how long it would take if we didn't have Rest, but we're not going to worry about that. Make our way on to Celadon, and today we're going to splurge and get the guards a fancy, high-class lemonade. Now that we have a drink to quench their thirst, we can make our way down to the Rocket Hideout. However, while I was running about the basement of the game corner, I had a thought. Giovanni has rock and ground types. These will double resist our sludge and be immune to Thunderbolt. So yeah, this doesn't sound like a good idea right now. I mean, I think we could win, but why force it when we can battle Erica for a bit more experience? So I leave the game corner and head down to the grass gym to battle Erica. Against Erica, we're going to be dealing neutral damage to Weepinbell and Gloom and super effective to Tangela, so I don't think Erica is going to be able to do too much to us. We're going to start out against Tangela, and like I said, we're doing super effective damage, and it is an easy one-shot as Sludge crits to take down the Ball of Vines. Weepinbell goes for Razor Leaf, but we resist, and our attack is actually doing neutral damage. You could ignore the not very effective message. It's a bug from Gen 1, and we get a crit with our Sludge on Gloom, and that's an easy win against Erica, and that's our 4th badge. This is a case where you have to be flexible with a Pokemon in the run. I don't really like this order, but it just makes so much more sense than trying to take on Giovanni first. Speaking of Giovanni, we have no other option but to face the organized crime boss, so it's back to the Rocket Hideout. I'm not looking forward to this battle, but Onyx is out first, and our strategy to get an early poison and then stall works out perfectly. We only have 9 Sludge PP coming into this battle, so we need to be very conservative to make sure we have enough Sludge PP left to damage the Rhydon. We got that early poison, and then we're able to wait it out, and Onyx ends up fainting. Rhyhorn comes out, and we're hoping to get a poison with the Sludge, but it is doing pretty good damage overall, and we get our poison to sink in just under half health. We're gonna go for a rest, but Horn Attack is doing surprisingly good damage to us. Eventually, we wake up, and we're back to orange PP, and I'm gonna go back to sleep and rest again and try to keep as much health as possible as we are getting ready to head into Persian. Rhyhorn is now in red health, so one tackle finishes it off and we're able to head into Persian. And Persian hits us with a growl, but we get a poison, it goes for guard spec, and then we bring it down to red health. It's a weak bite. Even though it does crit, we're in no danger of losing this. We level up to level 34 and we get another first try victory. That is way more stressful than I would have liked it to be, but it's still a win, and we can now head to Pokemon Tower to face Rival 4. Rival 4 is an absolute joke, and we're going to one-shot his entire team except for the Sandshrew. We're going for a Thunderbolt on Fearow, Thunderbolt on Shelter. We're getting Quick Attack, but then retaliating with a one-shot with Sludge, and then Sandshrew's out. We do over half and get a Poison before we get hit with a Sand Attack because it loves accuracy drops. But then Eevee's out and we one-shot again with Sludge. That battle was never in question. In fact, it is usually one of the easiest battles. I think it's because you're supposed to do this right when you arrive in Lavender Town, but that's not how you do things after your first playthrough. We can now head down to Fuchsia, and while I thought things would get easier, I completely forgot that Poison Gym loves Psychic Pokemon for some reason, and the mandatory jugglers are a pain. While the first one cooperates very nicely, we aren't one-shotting the best Pokemon of all time, Droozee, and we are also getting outsped by Kadabra. Thankfully, it went for Confusion and not Psybeam, but this is not ideal. The second mandatory juggler, we also don't one-shot the Droozee, and it crits with Confusion to finish us off. So yeah, that sucked. But we weren't at full HP, so after a heal, we come back to try again. This time, the juggler decides not to use Confusion at all and opts for Headbutt or Poison Gas the entire time. And we can't be poisoned because we're Poison type. Hypno merely adopted the Poison Gas, and we were born in it, molded by it. Fun Batman reference because I could, and with that, we're now on our way to face Koga. And like usual, we're a bit underleveled, but we deal super effective damage, so maybe we have a chance to win this. Well, actually we aren't dealing super effective damage because it's the Gen 1 text glitch, and that caught me here, and we get our answer that we aren't going to be able to get the win here because the first Venonat is outspeeding us, and it wasn't anywhere close to a one-hit KO, and all of the Venonat decide to use Psychic, and eventually we get knocked out. This clearly wasn't working at level 37, so I came back and tried at level 40, and this time the Venonats don't waste any time, and even though we got a crit on the second Venonat, it still survives, and then after that we get a Gen 1 miss, which is a 1 in 256 chance of happening, and Venonat takes advantage and finishes us off, and we don't even get as far as last time. So our only other option at this point is Rival number 5, better known as Rival 5-ul. I think this could be possible, maybe. I really don't know because his team is so much stronger than before, but we swept him earlier and maybe we're at a higher level than him, so let's jump right into it. We don't have an answer for this Sandslash, and that's definitely a problem for us. Maybe not right now as much because it has bad attacks, but Earthquake on this is terrifying. Instead, we get to deal with Sand Attack, and not once, not twice, but 6 times before it finally faints. So our accuracy is totally trash right now, but somehow we're able to hit the Ninetales and the Cloyster without taking too much damage. With the Oyster knocked out, we are now on to Kadabra. If the good luck continued, we might have had a chance, but our Sludge misses and a couple of Confusions knocks us out. That was a really weird battle thanks to all the Sand Attacks, and it turns out that if we don't get Sand Attacked to death, we do have a much better battle. So here, we start with a crit and get a poison, and that's best case scenario, and things get better as we don't get hit with multiple Sand Attacks, and our accuracy is intact heading into the Ninetales. We get hit with a Tail Whip, which is really good because it is activating the Badge Boost glitch. And eventually, we switch to Tackle to save a little bit of PP, but we're able to take out Ninetales and move on to Cloyster. I decide to rest against Cloyster because it can't do too much damage to us, and that allows us to be at as high of health as possible heading into the Kadabra. We know that Kadabra is going to outspeed us, so we need to be able to survive a Psybeam and hope it doesn't crit, which also is a fairly high likelihood. After we hit ourselves in Confusion, we're able to knock out Cloyster and bring out Kadabra. We go for Sludge and take big damage from Psybeam, but we get the one shot and we move on to face Jolteon. This is the first time we're facing the Lightning Dog. It goes for Pin Missile and it hits twice. Sludge doesn't get a crit, and that means that we're not going to get the knockout. We get knocked out as Jolteon is just under half health, and that means that we're going to have to continue to grind a little bit more to get this to be a winnable battle. Luckily for us, Silphco is a great place to do some quick training, and with 4 more levels gained, we're back against Rival Fivel, this time at level 45, and after a few unlucky resets thanks to Sand Attack, Sandslash behaves and we take it out fairly quickly. This time I decided to rest with Ninetales just because it does a little bit less than the Cloyster does, and it has a better chance to maybe boost our stats with Tail Whip a little bit more. Since we're at a higher level, Cloyster's now a one-shot, and we can tank a critical hit Psybeam against Kadabra. Now we're back to Jolteon, but we have low health, and I go for rest, but Pin Missile does enough to knock us out. We're gonna have to try this one again, and we're back with Sandslash, and again, we're still hoping for no sand attacks. We're able to do pretty good damage with our Sludge now, and we're able to end up getting a 4-hit KO because of the poison damage. That's going to bring out Ninetales, and we know that we're going to be resting here. We're going to take a little bit of damage from Quick Attack, rest a couple of turns, and hope we get some Tail Whips, and in this case, we get 2, which boosts our attack a couple stages, which you can see how much more damage we're doing against the Ninetales there. Cloyster's out next, and we go for Thunderbolt, which is a one-shot. We are not seeing Badge Boost glitch on our special, because that comes from Blaine's badge, and right there Kadabra went for Confusion instead of Psybeam, which is huge, because though we're taking pretty good damage from Jolteon, we have 50 health left, and as long as Pin Missile doesn't hit 5 times, and it doesn't, we are going to survive. We hit Sludge, and we have defeated Rival Fivel. That was such a crazy battle. It was a little bit lucky, but at the same time, I think we had a viable strategy there. This took much longer than I would have liked though, so we're going to have to hope Weezing can make up some time in the back half of this run to still have a good showing on the tier list. After a quick heal in Sylph, which is another part of the reason why I like training Pokemon here, we can make our way to our second encounter with Giovanni. Just like before, we don't have a great answer for his team, and I don't think this is going to be an easy fight either. Nidorino does go well because of a Thunderbolt paralysis, and Sludge takes out Persian pretty quickly as well. Rhyhorn is out though, and we know this thing can be a giant pain to deal with, and Sludge is not doing too much damage, although we are able to get an early poison, which will definitely help us out. We see Giovanni go for a guard spec surprisingly late in the battle, but we're able to take his Rhyhorn down to red health and finish it off with a tackle. So we're going to be just over half health when going to Nidoqueen. This girl double resists us, so we won't be able to get help from our poison either. We need to rely on tackle to take it down, which is far from ideal. Again, we're helped by the lack of great moves from our opponent though, and we're able to outlast the Nidoqueen and get a first try victory, even though we are in red health. It's hard to feel good about this win, but again, it is a first try win. When we have to face Giovanni with actual ground moves, we may be in for a rude awakening. Right now, we have choices again, and I'm going to try my luck with Koga instead of Sabrina, so we're back to Fuchsia to take him on again. We are still relying on Sludge, and even though we outspeed the Venonats, we aren't going to outspeed the Venomoth. In addition, Koga decides to be a pain and not your typical Gen 1 AI trainer, and he decides to use his best attack each and every time instead of going for things like X attack, so Venomoth finishes off with a Psychic. So our next attempt, we get the Gen 1 AI we all know and love, with an X attack on Venonat number 1 and a lucky crit on the second Venonat to take out the first 2 Venonat without taking any damage. The final Venonat gets a special drop Psychic off, but it's not going to be too bad as long as Venomoth doesn't attack us with Psychic. But we hang on with 3 HP. I don't think we're going to win, but then Gen 1 AI does Gen 1 AI things, goes for an X attack while we're on 3 HP. Literally any attack would have finished us off, but Koga does what Koga does in Gen 1 AI, and that's attack randomly and use random moves, and that is going to get us our 5th badge. This is why I absolutely love Gen 1. It's so wildly inconsistent at times. You never know what you're going to get, but that's what makes it fun. We can now make our way to face Sabrina. Why did I choose this option? Well, the reason again is down to AI. I have a hunch we can beat Sabrina pretty quickly because she doesn't make good decisions as a trainer. Additionally, we can probably one-shot most of her low defense team. We're going to get outsped, and we got hit with a flash, so our accuracy is down as we head into Kadabra. It leads with an X defend, and it tanks our Sludge pretty well, but hits a Psywave, so we're not doing too bad right now. Alakazam is out, it goes for Reflect, which could be a pain, but then it uses Reflect again, then goes for the worst move of all time with Psywave, and then Reflect. So Sabrina never used a super effective move on our gas Pokemon. Again, you gotta love Gen 1 AI. This was a first try victory with a poison Pokemon over the Psychic Gym Leader, and she wants to congratulate me with her incredible favorite TM, TM46 Psywave, but I don't want any part of that awful move, so straight to the trash it goes, and we head to Cinnabar to face Blaine. With Blaine, we get a crit right off the bat with our Sludge, and then we get confused, but we're able to avoid confusion and finish off the Firefox. Rapidash is out next, and we avoid hitting ourselves in confusion, and you see the great defense on display as Stomp doesn't do too much damage to us. Unfortunately, Rapidash did hit us with a Growl, which is going to lower our attack and make the battle against Arcanine a little bit more difficult. Takedown, again, doesn't do too much, but we get a crit, and then I guess correctly that it's going for a Reflect, and we go for Thunderbolt, doing almost exactly 50 damage, and you know because of the Super Potion Blaine used. Eventually, he uses Takedown, which crits, but we tank it, and the recoil knocks out his Fire Dog. Another first try victory for Weezing, and this thing is doing so well. This was really weird because we got a lot of crits, but most of them didn't matter. Winning with recoil damage always seems like a funny way to get a win too. I think this battle was pretty consistent though, and now we can move on to Giovanni battle number 3. Before this battle, I picked up Mimic and I've taught it in place of Tackle, hopefully giving us a little bit stronger move, and in this case, we're going to Mimic Earthquake. While I'm not really trying to win this first battle, I'm trying to get as much information as possible, including how much damage we can tank from Dugtrio. And oh my goodness, that does so much damage, although it was a crit. We're able to knock it out, we'll rest it up here against Persian, and see if we can move on and see how we fare against the Nidos. We do have Earthquake, and every Screech we get hit with will boost our attack thanks to the Badge Boost glitch. Slash is going to crit, and so those defense drops don't matter. And after a couple attacks, we're able to finish off Persian and make our way to Nidoqueen. Things go okay because we outspeed, but it doesn't one-shot. It takes it to red, and then we get one-shot very quickly. Unfortunately, this one doesn't look even close to possible right now. Even with the few rare candies, this isn't going well. Even at a higher level, we struggle, and this time we don't even get past the Dugtrio. So I decide I'm gonna grab a few more vitamins to give us the best possible chance. I've also battled the other trainers in the gym, and now we're heading into this battle at level 59. The extra bit of stats probably isn't going to make too much of a difference compared to Giovanni's move choice, but nonetheless, this time we are able to get past the Dugtrio. With Persian coming out, we're going to hopefully get a rest in to get back to full health. It goes for Slash and it gets us down to red health, and a misclick led me to leading Sludge instead. It did big damage, but luckily it went for Screech instead of going for Slash, and that allows us to get our rest in, and that's going to allow us to finish off the Persian. Nidoqueen's out now, and Earthquake does one-shot thanks to the badge boost we've gotten so far. Nidoking is out. We'll see. It's another one-shot. I'm not sure if that crit mattered, so only Rhydon's left. We go for Earthquake. It doesn't do the job, and we get one shot. So, yeah, that wasn't great. Why wouldn't Giovanni just give us a guard spec? It was the perfect time for it. At this point, I don't think it's consistent enough to keep trying over and over again. So I did some training around Cycling Road and the Fighting Dojo, and we're back at level 60 this time. We mimic Earthquake from the Doug Trio, just like before, and again, we're going to hope that the Persian badge boosts us just enough so that we can get the knockouts. We now just need a couple of screeches, and we get them as we rest back up to full health. And Persian goes to red health, and we're just waiting for the poison to do its job and take it out, because of the double teams that Persian's put together, our Sludge isn't going to hit, so we have to wait for it to just miss, and poison knocks it out to bring out the Nidos again. Nidoqueen's out, and we go for Earthquake, and we hit. That's a one-shot. Nidoking's out, Earthquake again, and it one-shot, so it turns out that crit didn't matter from before. Rhydon's out, Earthquake? No. But we get the guard spec! Giovanni comes through in the clutch, doing Giovanni things. He can't resist the urge to use a guard spec. That's perfect. That was the opportunity we needed to finish the Rhino off for our 8th and final gym badge. Was this lucky? Definitely. Do I care at this point? Not one bit. That was a brutal grind, and it took more real-life time to beat Giovanni than it did to get to Giovanni. So I'll take a little bit of luck and move forward to rival number 6. I don't like our matchup, and hopefully having Mimic will make this a little bit easier. Sandslash is out first, and it is not a great matchup. 4 rounds of Sludge, however, are enough to take it out. And we've only taken about 30 damage in the process. Execute is now going to come out, and Sludge will be super effective, and being 16 levels higher, that's an easy one-shot. Ninetales is out next, and a critical hit quick attack doesn't do too much. I switch to Thunderbolt to finish it off, so I don't accidentally misclick when we go for Cloyster, and Thunderbolt again is another easy one-shot. Kadabra hits a big Psybeam, giving us a nice amount of HP, but we finish it off with a Sludge. And now Jolteon's out, and I was worried about Pin Missile, but it also knows Agility. So that means it's a 50% chance that it's going to go for Agility instead of Pin Missile, and over 2 turns, we end up getting the knockout, and that's a first try victory over Rival 6. That is not something I was expecting at all. I honestly thought this would take a long time to get by. While I am excited, I don't think this will be repeated once his Sandslash is no longer an easy KO. It will be equipped with Earthquake next time we face off when he's the champion. Oh, sorry about that spoiler alert there. He is going to be the champion before us, so act shocked when Lance tells us that. Anyway, we can now make our way to the Elite Four, and I'm thinking this is going to be a frustrating grind for Weezing. The champion is going to be so tough, and I think Agatha is going to be super annoying too. Lorelei may even be a challenge with Slowbro and Amnesia and Psychic, so we could be in for a bad time. Like all our solo runs, we do an attempt at the level we arrive at the Indigo Plateau. This time we're starting at level 62. We're going to end up knocking out the Dugong in 3 turns using Sludge, and somehow we avoid it using Rest, which is really strange for this Dugong. Anyway, Cloyster's out next, and we should one-shot with Thunderbolt, and we do, even though we get a crit. Maybe it mattered there. I hope that we don't have to find out. Thunderbolt does huge damage against Slowbro though, and we knock it out over 2 turns. Jinx has really poor defense, but luckily it doesn't put us to sleep with Lovely Kiss, and we're able to hit it with Sludge for another one-shot. Lapras is out last. Thunderbolt does huge damage, almost gets a one-shot with that crit, and Blizzard doesn't freeze, so we just got a first try victory against Lorelei too. Weezing has done surprisingly well getting first try victories in this run. That battle was so much better than I was thinking it could be. I knew Dugong and Cloyster would be pretty easy, but I thought that Slowbro would be much harder than it was. Speaking of things that I think are going to be hard, It's not Bruno, because Bruno is absolutely terrible, and I think he's going to be pretty bad here too. We're going to use Mimic, and we teach Dig. With Dig on our side, we can crit the Onix and get a one-shot. I don't know if that mattered, but then Hitmonchan is a one-shot with Thunderbolt. Hitmonlee is also a one-shot with Thunderbolt, because both Hitmons have terrible special. Again, we go for Dig on the second Onix, and luckily, in Gen 1, when you're underground, Earthquake doesn't do more damage. Otherwise, we could have been in real trouble there, but it doesn't end up being too much of a problem, and we knock it out over 2 turns, and we do the same with Thunderbolt on the Machamp, and we've defeated Bruno on the first time. I'm not going to celebrate that Bruno win too much, although it is a first try victory, because we have Agatha coming up next, and her ghosts could cause some real problems for us. They're fast and have psychic moves, and we really don't have an answer for them unless we mimic something, because Sludge is double resisted. Anyway, with Gengar out first, I go for Sludge, hoping to see how much it will do, and it goes for Substitute, so we don't get to find out. We end up knocking out the Golbat as we outspeed and get a Thunderbolt off, and Gengar comes back out. Thunderbolt does really good damage, just about half, as we get hit with a Lick, and then we go for Sludge, and it does basically nothing. So we've found out that we're not in a great place here, as Gengar number 1 has been defeated. I decide to mimic Lick to see how much damage that will do to these ghost Pokemon. It does just under half to Haunter, so I decide to stick with it, and I'm rewarded with a critical hit to bring out the Arbok. We go for a Thunderbolt, and it takes 2 turns, but we're able to get a knockout and make our way to the last Gengar. Unfortunately, it hits us with a big Psychic, and then we get confused, and we're not quite there yet. We need to get one more hit, but we hit ourselves in confusion. Then we get put to sleep, then Agatha finishes us off with a Dream Eater. That ends our first run through the league, but if we come back a little bit higher level against Agatha, we do stand a little bit better chance. Now, I'm not going to get too specific about what the damage rounding thresholds are, but essentially, if your level ends in a 0, 3, 5, or 8, you're going to be doing significantly more damage based on how the game is calculating its damage because of the way that the levels round up. So you see here, we're doing much better damage against these Pokemon, and Thunderbolt is also helping with that we're not using a double resisted Sludge. So we're making much better progress thanks to having better moves and also doing more damage with those moves. I also made a small change with the strategy, and I mimic Hypnosis because I think that will be helpful once we get to that Gengar number 2 to be able to give us the time we need to get the knockout. Arbok goes down, and we get to see if the strategy works off right away, but we get confused and hit ourselves in confusion, which is not great. Eventually, Hypnosis does hit, and then we're able to start doing damage on the Gengar, and 2 times it's been asleep. Super Potion is just delaying the inevitable, and a critical hit doesn't make it matter anyway, and we've now beaten Agatha and are now on to Lance. I don't think Lance is going to be too much trouble for us, mainly because if we outspeed Gyarados and we hit a Thunderbolt, that should be a one-shot. I guess that's my biggest concern, because after that, we should be able to mimic Ice Beam against the second Dragonair, and that should pretty much sweep the rest of his team. I guess we'll have to find out though. Gyarados is out first, we go for Thunderbolt, and we hit, and it's a one-shot. We outsped, that's perfect. Dragonair number 2's out now. We're going for Sludge, we get a Poison. Unfortunately, we get hit with Thunder Wave, which means we're going to be paralyzed the rest of the battle unless we rest, and that's exactly what we're going to do. This thing can't really do too much damage to us. Even that Hyper Beam didn't do much, and we're able to knock out Dragonair number 2 without too much problem. Now we're going to level up and then go against Dragonair number 3, and the biggest concern here would be it using Ice Beam and freezing us, and it doesn't freeze us. We did get a crit, which did much more than I expected, but now we can knock it out, move against Aerodactyl, it flies and hits us with a little bit of damage there, but we one-shot after that. Dragonite is 4 times weak to Ice Beam, we outspeed, and that is an easy one-shot, and that's a first try victory against Lance as well. Now, I know I told you all earlier we have to be prepared for a big shock here, and we have to act shocked now, as Lance tells us our rival has beaten the league before us and is now the champion. So if we want to be champion, we have to beat the rival. That means we're going to go ahead and try that now. We're at level 66, which is much better than we were when we made it to the champion with Koffing. So it's time to now see if we can get this done at a really early level. Time to cue up the champion's music and see how this one goes. Now, if you are expecting a long, drawn-out, epic battle that gets a great conclusion to this run, you're gonna be a little bit disappointed here. Earthquake does just under half damage, and although our sludge did poison, it did basically nothing. So we'll mimic Earthquake and then get hit with another one. It's gonna leave us in red health, and we're not in a great place as we go for Earthquake, and it does take it under half, but we had no chance of winning this. This is going to be a long challenge. So on the next time we made it back to the champion, again, shocker, he still beat Lance and we still need to beat him. We're now at level 71. We're going to use a couple rare candies here to see if they're going to help us get a little bit stronger, and we're going to get to that damage rounding threshold I mentioned before. And at level 73, let's cue up the champion's music once again and see if this time we can get the victory. You could probably guess, for those of you who have watched my other videos, that I don't just jump to the champion battle though. This goes absolutely horribly. We are going to mimic Earthquake now because I think that's the better strategy. However, we don't really get a chance to do much because our Earthquake does hit and it does just about half, but then an Earthquake crits and that finishes off this attempt. Remember when I said the Earthquake Sand Slash would be a problem? I was not trying to add extra drama to the video. This thing is an absolute monster to which we have no answer. In fact, on the next time we make it to the champion, I have so little confidence to get by him, I didn't even restore my PP. So it means we actually can't win, but Sand Slash does us a huge favor and we don't even have to worry about that. 2 Earthquake, 1 crit, and we are done. We were at level 75 for that one. So now I have battled the league quite a few times. As we just saw, we're now up to level 75 and we still haven't made it past the Sand Slash for the champion. This means we still have to face Alakazam, which is just as capable of ending a run as the Sand Slash is. The one benefit of that is that thanks to the extra levels we've gotten, every single Elite Four member is consistent now. Oddly enough, the strategies we're using against these trainers isn't going to change much from when we first faced off against them. As long as we don't get incredibly bad luck, especially against Agatha, we should make it to the champion battle every time from here on out. This means 2 things. First, every attempt we make is going to give us a very good amount of experience, which will help us get stronger much more quickly if we need those additional levels at the end of this run. And secondly, we should be getting close to the end of this run, which is ultimately the goal to see where the Weezing comes in place on the tier list. So we're now back to Lance, and its battle has been sped up as all the others have as well, and you can see the strategies aren't changing much. We're still able to tank all of his attacks and are able to make short work of his team. That means we've now made it back to the champion once again. We're now at level 78. Using 2 rare candies gets us to 79, and that brings us back to the champion. Let's see if those extra couple levels are enough. We've got 4 higher now in total, and with the champion battle music playing, we're now against Sand Slash. Just like before, we're going to take Earthquake from Sand Slash, and thanks to being a much higher level, we're going to tank these Earthquakes much better than we were before. When we do our Earthquake, it's doing over half, so it will take 2 attempts, but for the first time in this run, we're able to take down the Sand Slash and move on to Alakazam. It's not a very long celebration though, as Alakazam hits with a Psychic, and that crit definitely did not matter, and that ends our attempt at the champion. And while it was disappointing to lose to the Alakazam like that, I actually have a lot of hope coming out of this. We finally saw some signs of progress, and it should be possible very soon because we're quickly approaching the level at which Koffing beat the game, and we have significantly better stats than Koffing. So I did make one more attempt to get some extra experience at the league between the last champion battle and the run you're seeing on the screen now. If I've done my math right, we should be 2 levels higher heading into the champion battle this time versus the last battle we had, which should give us a little bit better damage and ability to tank against the Sandslash, maybe giving us enough HP that we're going to need heading into the Alakazam battle. I don't know if it's going to be enough. It will be interesting. We did have to rely on a 1 in 256 miss glitch to get the win with Koffing at this level. I don't know if it's going to be enough, but we're going to heal up. We're going to use both our rare candies. We're going in at level 81, so 2 levels was right. I did do my math appropriately, apparently. So now we're going to head on in and see if we can beat the champion this time. Once again, let's cue up the champion's battle music and see how this one goes. So heading into Sandslash, we aren't going to change our strategy. We're still going to mimic Earthquake and then hope for the best. We're going to hope that it doesn't do too much damage with its Earthquake, which it doesn't this time. And then we're going to go for Earthquake and hope for big damage. We don't get a crit. That means we're going to take 2 Earthquakes and we're sitting at just under half health, but we've made our way back to the Alakazam. Now we have to hope for a miss or we outspeed. Wow, that is awesome, and we one-shot the Alakazam. We then go for Sludge on Executor, and it one-shots as well. We are making great progress here. Thunderbolt on Cloyster, that's also a one-shot. We've now made our way to Ninetales. We go for Earthquake, and then Earthquake hits, and also one-shots, and now we're to Jolteon. We are sweeping through this team. Pin Missile hits and crits, but we should easily hold on to this. Now it's just a question of whether our Earthquake hits, and it does enough damage, knocking out the Lightning Dog, getting us the win, getting us the Hall of Fame. Wow, absolutely crazy how quickly that run came together. As soon as we outsped Alakazam, it was all over. We one-shot the rest of his team. That was such a great way to end that. That feels so good, the way that that ended, after having to struggle so long to get to that point. We finished the run at level 81, which is the exact same level as we finished with Koffing, but the in-game time for Weezing is much better. In-game time comes out to 6 hours and 33 minutes. That's not a terrible time, and it was much faster than Koffing. When we take a look at the newly designed tier list, we will need to find a home for it, and I think the clear place is in the 3rd tier. Weezing was significantly better than Koffing, and it made up a ton of time at the start of the game, but it definitely isn't an easy solo challenge. I am a bit surprised that Weezing needed to be at the same level as Koffing to beat the game, but that Koffing champion battle has to be one of the luckiest battles you're ever going to see on this channel, so I guess it does make sense. And now, the only thing left to do in this video is spin the wheel and see what the next Pokemon to complete a solo challenge will be. There's a bit of a new design, and after that new design, we get rewarded with Omastar. I think the wheel likes the new look that it has, as Omastar should be a good Pokemon for a solo playthrough. You'll all have to come back and check out the next video when it gets released to see how it does. Remember that if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, like the video, and turn on notifications so you will get notified when the newest videos come out, whenever that will be. It's always great to see comments too, so if you have any thoughts on the video, please add them in below. Until next time, I hope you all enjoyed this video, and I'm Droozee, and I hope to see you again soon.